Yep. Good. Just one.
This is my favorite part.
Fate.
I love that you said that.
Action! Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Snyder. I've devoted over 2 decades of my life helping Americans across this country save and plan for their financial future. I'm starting out on a journey to educate Americans and help get people in this country saving. Join me as we go on the roads to retirement. Marin County is one of the top 5 richest counties in the United States, but it's also home to artists, shipbuilders, and tax-free anchor-out citizens who avoid rent by settling in the open waters of Richardson Bay. Sean here pays his rent and makes a decent home of his 25-foot shoreliner with his loyal first mate and unassuming guard dog, Oscar.
It's really a beautiful location you live at. This marina is wonderful, real serene, quiet. So you went from being an almost professional skateboarder, and now you're an artist.
I'm a sign painter, sign maker, floral designer. I wear a lot of different hats. You know, living in SF, I'd probably be sharing a room. Living with, 5 roommates, paying $1,800 a month for a tiny little closet. I got this, 25-foot sailboat, and I get to live here alone with Oscar and not have any roommates. It makes more sense. I do a lot of work on this boat, believe it or not. I've had this about 5 years now. It's definitely living within my means, It'd be crazy to have a huge house and not use any of the rooms, and I use everything in here. It's perfect.
Let's talk a little bit about the business that you're in. I mean, you service many of San Francisco's businesses. You're designing art.
I do a lot of stuff with restaurants, any type of business. I've done stuff downtown and, office buildings. It's been a pretty fun ride. It's definitely tough, one-man banding it, but it works.
I would imagine you have to balance the financial aspect of the business as well against the personal.
It's a feast or famine, to be honest with you. Pretty tough, especially, with rent and everything, in this area, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I've never been really good at budgeting. When I get it, I spend it, or help other people out with it, and then it's next job. I chose this because it's something I love to do, and what's the point of waking up every day and doing something and you're completely unhappy? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think I and the audience can certainly feel the passion that you have for your vocation, and you're obviously very good at it. You've known it for such a long time. The importance of mentorship and learning from others, and I had a mentor who told me that life is a learned experience. So one of the things I've taken away is we need to get people who don't have that luxury investing in themselves both today, so living day to day for today, but also investing in themselves in the future. Thanks for showing us around your digs. And I know we're going to hang out a little bit later on Haight, the tour, and kind of check it all out.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Oscar. Love you, buddy.
Have you ever met a Coast Guard hero who decided to switch gears and become a financially savvy Northern California firefighter? My guess is you probably haven't, since these guys get scooped up pretty quick. I decided to travel upstream to San Rafael, where I met with Will and his wife Chelsea to talk about his new home, baby daughter, and their cool dog Leroy. If you're wondering if dogs are in all of our interviews, you're not entirely wrong.
We're in San Rafael, and we're talking to Will Fitzsimmons. He's a firefighter, EMT, specialist in the Menlo Park Fire Department. I guess I want to start a little bit with your background. You're originally from Jacksonville, Florida, and before serving in the Menlo Park Fire Department, you actually worked for the U.S. Coast Guard.
Yeah, I was in the Coast Guard for 10 years. Was stationed underneath the Golden Gate Bridge for the last 6 of my 10 years. And met a lot of good firemen. Loved the Bay Area. Met my wife, so I decided to go to the Coast Guard and become a fireman. What
are some of the challenges of doing the job?
Some of the challenges are the jobs that you go on. So you could start off the day with, cleaning the station, and then you get a call, and it could be a car wreck, it could be a medical, it could be a fire, it could be a water rescue. The difficult part of the job is how to get your mind ready to respond to that call.
Yeah.
It's also the mortality of firemen and police. Their life expectancy is not nearly as long as a regular civilian.
How do you process that kind of thing? I mean, you said you have to get your mind ready, but I'm sure that you've seen some things that you'd rather not.
You just think of it as an actual call. And when the call's over, you try to, debrief a little bit, but after that, you kind of just work yourself to the next call.
How do you kind of de-stress?
Spend time with the family is a huge de-stressor.
Some people don't think about their retirement until they're in their 40s.
It was always kind of something in the back of the brain. I was always wondering, like, retirement. When I met Chelsea, my wife, and I decided to, start to think about a family and realize that, this is the place that I wanted to be. I could not have survived with the military salary at the retirement of 20 years. It was a better retirement option. At 2.7% at 57 years old will calculate to be a lot more than the military.
So you did the math and you're just like, okay, this is better for me, better for my family, better for the lifestyle. Well, thanks so much for sharing a little bit of your life with the audience, and really interesting how you transitioned from serving others in the U.S. Coast Guard to now serving others in the community of Menlo Park. I appreciate that.
Thanks for your time too.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Leroy looks like he needs a little bit of exercise. You think
Yeah.
we should go take him for a little bit of a walk? Leroy, what do you say? You want to get up, buddy?
I really enjoyed my conversations with Sean and Will, who on the surface couldn't seem more different. Sean, a striving artist, living paycheck to paycheck, and Will, a firefighter, taking risks, but also saving for his loving family. But a couple of themes emerged. Number one, the importance of mentorship and knowing people and working with other people. That collaborative environment leads to great success. And number two, retirement and savings is never far from anyone's mind. People want to save, want to plan for retirement, but sometimes things get in the way. Haight-Ashbury, perhaps the most iconic neighborhood in San Francisco, made famous by the hippie revolutionaries of the Summer of Love and legendary musicians like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and of course, the Grateful Dead. I sat down with a few local entrepreneurs to learn more about the Haight and its current state. Dave McLean has been referred to by some as the godfather of craft beer in San Francisco. He originally made his pilgrimage here to follow the Grateful Dead and soon found the Haight to be the perfect place to combine his love for music with his passion for brewing.
Well, the Haight's had lots of histories, not just one, I mean, it goes back to being a playground for the rest of San Francisco in the 1880s or 90s when the park was first built. This neighborhood's always been kind of a festive neighborhood where people have come. Its most famous era and incarnation was in the 60s when a bunch of hippies were living here and there's a community that formed around them. It's always been changing, but then there's a strangeness to it where the more it changes, the more it kind of stays the same too.
What's your history in the area? I know you moved here in '91, but what's your history here?
I moved out here from the East Coast largely to see more Grateful Dead shows. At the same time, I ended up also falling in love with beer, with craft beer, and the two aren't completely separate. There was an underground lot scene in the parking lots of Dead shows, and there were a lot of really good beers being sold there because they weren't mass-produced beers, and so I really wanted to create things that I hoped would last and ideally outlast me, and that were really of the neighborhood and for the neighborhood, real community. These were really just places that were meant to be true Haight-Ashbury neighborhood places.
As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're employing dozens of people. You're providing jobs to these people that lived in and around the community.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some pressure there. Any mistake you make is not just going to affect you.
Did you think of it, the sense of community that exists here in the Haight, Spirit of the Grateful Dead? They had their own ticket agency, own management. They took care of their employees. Did that kind of filter down to how you looked at your employees?
To as much of a degree as possible, I tried to walk that talk. We did everything we could, I think, that was available to us at that time. We were early to offer health insurance before it was mandated and things like that. So always trying, not always succeeding, but doing the best we could.
Part of your role now, you're collaborating with so many other businesses throughout California. What do you think of some of the challenges in terms of offering retirement benefits for some of these employers?
There's been a lot of ebbing and flowing of different businesses, different business operators, and so the only problem is it's just gotten harder to run those kinds of businesses because everything has gotten more expensive.
Yeah.
It feels like there are a lot of expenses that can't actually be curbed because they're outside of our control. I mean, insurance and just the cost of labor, and then the margins aren't really necessarily that great. Not only is it hard to come up with retirement plans for the staff, it's often almost hard, if not impossible, for the founders to save any money for their own retirements.
I can definitely hear the passion as you talk about it, and obviously it's a challenge that needs to be addressed to be able to find a way to offer retirement for people at a cost-effective way, both to the employer and also to the employee.
Makes me very happy, and it's kind of an honor to see Alembic go on as Alembic, looking and feeling very, very similar, doing kind of on a similar mission, doing a lot of the same things, and so I feel like it's in really good hands.
Dave McLean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Kristen Evans and her husband are reimagining the notion of the independent bookstore, combining the power of community building and organization with smart business tactics. She and her employees are creating a model for how small business can still thrive in the face of anonymous online sales.
The Booksmith is a legacy bookstore in the Haight-Ashbury. It was founded in 1976, and it has 10 full-time equivalents that are working in the store. Most of them have just come out of high school or college and are working in a bookstore. Sometimes it's their first job. Haight-Ashbury is a destination for tourists from around the world. So we have folks that are visiting us throughout the summer and even throughout the year. We also have local market that is changing with the rise of the technology companies. We're seeing more and more tech professionals move into the city. So we're seeing a lot of disruption to our long-term customer base.
Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of became energized around healthcare and then retirement?
So I met a group called Small Business Majority that was doing educational training around the Affordable Care Act, and then I had them come meet with the Haight-Ashbury merchants. The Affordable Care Act posed both an opportunity and challenge for businesses, right? Because the opportunity was that the employees would receive health benefits, but the challenges were some of the businesses were struggling to pay minimum wages, let alone add on additional benefits.
What are some of the challenges in offering a program like a healthcare program or a voluntary benefit? Or
most of my staff are fairly young, and they're making at or just above minimum wage. They have high cost of living. San Francisco is not a cheap place to live. Small businesses like mine and members of the Haight-Ashbury Merchant Association, almost all of them have fewer than 25 employees. And we know statistically 80% of small businesses do not offer retirement savings plan to their employees. And the reason for that is what you alluded to. There's a fiduciary responsibility to the employer that a lot of owners don't want to sign up for or necessarily are educated enough to understand what that actually means. And the default is that they don't offer it. And so Cal Savers is essentially a way to an easy entry point for businesses to enroll employees in a retirement savings program, and it's voluntary. The employees can opt out. It really makes it part of a culture of savings that allows employees to start thinking about their future. Cal Savers is simply just an automatic deduction from an employee's paycheck.
we've been talking to all different types of businesses, all different types of, from an artist to a fireman, and getting their experiences. I mean, people want to save. They recognize that it's so vital to not only think about today and living today and taking care of your family or taking care of yourself or your dog or your little Joe, but they also take care of themselves in the future. You obviously feel very strongly about everything here and feel very strongly about your employees. Kristen Evans, thank you so much for joining us and appreciate your insight. Thank you, Joe. Can I hi Paul?
Absolutely.
Hi, Paul? No. Fortunately, he doesn't bite.
Kristen was very passionate about retirement, and I wanted to hear from one of her employees, Camden, about what he thought about retirement and saving.
You've been at the Booksmith for about how long?
For 9 years. I graduated with, fancy degree in English Lit right around the time the market imploded. Got into book selling at the time because it was what was available, what made sense, and have since found out that it's a great career. It works for me. I love it. San Francisco is a place where there's so many different things going on that you can kind of plug into whatever your moment is, your scene is at any given time.
What's it like working on Haight-Ashbury? There's so much history.
Oh, it's wild.
Here.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And this is definitely one of the pockets in the city where the past is very much alive and present. It's kooky. It's kind of like a circus.
How did the experience of 2008 frame your thoughts about investing and the financial world?
Apart from the fact that moment stripped a lot of financial opportunity off the table for people my age, but just sort of reiterated the importance of having some leverage into long-term stability and long-term financial health. It's striking when you see your older generation like losing houses, losing jobs, like their careers derailed, and not really like anything they can do about it.
Let's fast forward into 2018. You're the manager now of a group of employees. What does that mean to you in terms of the business that you're in and you personally and as a manager?
Everyone knows that saving's easier when it becomes habitual, right? It just gets the ball rolling and gives people a little bit of starting momentum. Cal Savers would be a way for the people that I work with to build a career and not give up any kind of financial security.
This kind of provides a buoy, a lifeboat in a way for them to stabilize, get their feet set. Cameron, thanks for sharing.
Business owners and their employees value something unique in the Haight. They enjoy preserving the storied history of its bohemian past while being resourceful to weather the economic ebbs and flows of tourism. Today, as supersized brands crowd our attention with click-of-the-button conveniences, it's encouraging to see the nonconformist creative businesses and individuals can still survive on love in the Haight. When California was admitted to the United States, it moved its capital from Monterey to Sacramento. Why Sacramento and not San Francisco or LA? As a bustling distribution center with rivers leading to coastal cities and home to the starting point of the first transcontinental railroad, gold rush settlers landed on these foothills and dug right in. Today, the capital boasts of distribution-based industries and service-related entrepreneurs that originally formed its economic base. Heritage One is one such company that we had the pleasure to visit and learn about the 401k plan they offer to their employees.
We're here at Heritage One Door and Building Solutions in Sacramento, California. I'm joined by the Chief Financial Officer, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
No problem.
Tell us a little bit about the history of Heritage One, what you all produce, and a little bit about the employees that work here.
So we started business in 2012. We produce doors, we frame doors and windows, and basically sell to new home builders. Our employees are a wide mix of people. We have installers that are located throughout the North State. We have employees here that work in the shop, professionals in sales or IT or accounting. So we have a wide mix of people that work for this company.
Obviously, the retirement plan is a very important aspect of the benefits that Heritage One is providing.
Yes, yeah, we consider that very important here. So we always make sure our investments are working out well, and if not, we'll rotate them out and bring one in that is. We also want to make sure our participation rates are high, both for the number of people and the percentages that are being taken out. Obviously, the more the better for those employees. We look at education. We have a lot of employees that are young that might not quite understand the importance of 401k. So we want to make sure we can reach out to them in a simple way and in a way they can understand and see the importance of the plan.
Let's talk a little bit about the plan design. And then I know you feel very passionately that the employees can save and plan for their future. What type of features? We had the Pension Protection Act in 2006 that allowed for auto enrollment, auto escalation.
Right.
That's part of your plan design.
Right. We put that in as soon as it was allowed. That's important because a lot of people that start here young and retirement isn't on the top of their mind. And
never is.
Having any money taken out of their check, even if it's just a small amount, is something that they feel they can afford. So we have an auto enrollment feature where they start off at 4%. Each year, if they stay in the auto enrollment, it goes up 1% until 10% after 6 years.
And you take that very seriously as a committee and engage the record keeper to educate employees, hold meetings, etc.
Yes, because this is usually the only way they can save for retirement is through a 401k plan. And if they start early, it's great. If they start late, it's tough. For us, up to 4% will match half of that. If you do the 4%, you get 2% thrown in by the company for free. You see a lot of people that are 80 years old that have to work.
Yeah, and that's not always an option.
Right.
What types of topics, when you do the group training, group planning? What types of topics are you talking about?
So usually we stress the match, first
Yeah.
of all, because that's one of the ways to get people into the plan. We stress starting early, putting as much aside as you can when you're young, even though it's decades off.
Yeah.
It really makes a big difference.
Jeff, we're going to talk in a little bit with one of your employees, Daryl. Is retirement important to him? Was he excited about the 401k plan upon joining?
He is. He's young. He joined the plan right away as soon as he could. He's in it now. Daryl definitely appreciates what the plan does and appreciates that it's his way to save for retirement. So it's very important to him, which is very important to us.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much, and appreciate your perspective, sharing the insights into what the committee's talking about, and for giving us a tour around Heritage One. It's really interesting. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Jeff walked me through how Heritage One onboards new employees for their retirement savings program, which gave me the opportunity to meet Daryl. He had just recently left his job at a tattoo parlor to work for an employer who could provide him with a clear path to start saving for his future.
How important is retirement savings to you as an individual?
It's really important to me, especially now that I'm in my early 30s. In my early 20s, I kind of didn't really think about that kind of thing. Now I'm in my 30s, trying to think of longevity.
When you were considering joining Heritage One as an employee, the retirement benefit was top of mind for you, beyond just the compensation.
Heritage One provided me with a 401k, and it's something I never really had before. You know, so when they offered it to me, it only made sense to go with that.
Jeff alluded to the fact that individuals are auto-enrolled, meaning they're put into the plan automatically
Right.
upon eligibility.
Right.
Sometimes people, even though they value the importance of the retirement plan, that paternalism, having the employer say, okay, you're automatically in the plan. You
Right.
can always opt out, but how did you digest that?
Opting out wasn't an option for me. I always wanted to stay in it. The way they presented it to me never felt like they were pushing me or convincing me into it. It was more just brought up like, hey, this is what we have. It's a great thing for our employees. And like I said, it only made sense.
So when you're having that money taken out of your paycheck, did that factor in, like, what's my net cash gonna be?
I never look at my check stub, so I never even notice that it's even there or taken out.
We use these words in the industry, which I think oftentimes can be confusing, for like mutual funds, net asset value, share price.
It's confusing, huh?
It is confusing,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Do you try to educate yourself on some of the terms, read the materials?
Yeah, I mean, it's just important to know what's going on in general. I mean, things can change like that. Well, now that I have a retirement plan, I'm not so worried about the future. I have peace of mind.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you, Daryl. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, dude.
And I don't know, you think you're gonna add like maybe 401k on
Right,
on either
you know
arm?
the rappers are doing across the forehead
Yeah,
lately?
you gonna do that?
Yeah, I ain't doing that.
Just down the road from Heritage One, we stopped in to visit Lorenzo and Yolanda, owners of Janico Building Services. They are also happily married, just as long as Lorenzo knows when to separate work from pleasure. One of their biggest concerns running a small business is how to help their employees save and plan for their financial futures.
Welcome back. We're in North Highlands, California, sitting down with Yolanda and Lorenzo Harris here at Janico Building Services. Guys, thanks for hosting us today. Let's start, Lorenzo, with the history of the company.
Well, we're a commercial building maintenance company. We started in 1985, and through organic growth through the years, we now have 45 employees covering Sacramento as well as the San Francisco Bay Area.
The type of folks that work for us, they vary from different walks of life. Age range varies from 20 to 60.
Talk a little bit about BOMA and what that is, and what that means to you and the success of your organization.
BOMA is an acronym for Building Owners and Managers Association, and essentially they're a commercial real estate association for commercial building owners and property managers. BOMA has chapters in all 50 states in various cities throughout the country. We happen to be a member of BOMA East Bay. They focus on the interests of building owners and property managers.
CRUG stands for Commercial Real Estate Women. The goal of the organization is to advance women in commercial real estate. There's 11,000 members. I currently served as president for 2 terms, 2012 and then also 2014.
And how important is mentorship to people in the association and to the organization?
Mentorship is a big value to the commercial real estate for women. It allows them to be able to work with someone to help groom a woman to advance in their career.
There's over 70 million Americans who don't have access to an employer retirement plan, either because the employer doesn't offer it due to some high administrative fees, they're not participating if there is one, and that's concerning to me. California had an initiative, the Cal Savers Plan, that was born about 2 years ago through legislation, and it's going to come online in 2019. What does that mean for you, your employees, and the people of California?
Well, as the company, our company experienced turnovers. And so in an effort to address that, we began looking at our employee offerings, wages, and benefits in particular. And retirement obviously came up. But what we found, the administrative loops for retirement programs was burdensome. We would have fiduciary responsibility, exhaustive paperwork, and we would have to hire attorneys just to understand and implement the plan. With Cal Savers, the state actually takes on that responsibility, so it becomes much more easier for our company to implement.
The state also has plans to communicate and educate employees with workshops, one-on-one sessions, etc., I would imagine.
Absolutely. All the fiduciary responsibility that is involved implementing a retirement program now is in the hands of the state.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you for sharing your stories.
California's new Cal Savers program seemed like a perfect fit for Janico's retirement savings program, so I thought it worth investigating further. We stopped at the state capitol building to meet with Cal Savers architect, State Treasurer John Chung, and the program's executive director, Katie Selinsky, for a closer look in how Cal Savers can potentially benefit millions of Californians.
I want to start with Cal Savers, and if you wouldn't mind, talk about the rationale as to why Cal Savers was born.
Fundamentally, what those of us who serve in public service want to do is we want to make sure that we provide our, in my case, fellow Californians with the best lives possible. So many people do the right thing, they work hard, they raise their families because of economic struggles. Their golden years are oftentimes times of great vulnerability. And so the federal government has not put together a better package to make sure that those who don't have retirement security from their workplace have better opportunities going forward.
There are millions of Americans across this country that do not have access to an employer-based retirement plan. They may work for an employer that cannot bear the administrative burden of running such a plan. And wonder if you might kind of describe the issue for Californians and how you're kind of seeing the landscape in terms of offering coverage around the country, because there are other states like Oregon, Maryland, Connecticut, Illinois, others that are doing similar things.
It is a matter of great concern when you think about the median American has zero savings. This is a crisis that's unfolding before us. In California, if you look at the numbers, those who are aged 25 to 44 have twice the likelihood of retiring into poverty, if you call it retirement, versus those who are 45 to 64. We know that employers are competing in a global economy, so it's making it much more difficult to provide retirement benefits. And so we thought we needed to make sure that we provided them an option. A lot of small businesses are competing against larger businesses, and many of them are huge advocates for this program because they recognize this gives them the opportunity to go after some highly talented personnel relative to some of those larger corporations.
There's a deliberative process that the state of California, the Treasurer's Office, Cal Savers has followed to select a record keeper, an asset manager, and all the different functions that are needed to run a plan.
We had a RFP. We wanted to make sure it's very competitive. We wanted to keep costs down low. That's why you want to seek that competition. That's why I referenced earlier that we had the interested parties meetings to make sure that we included everything in these proposals in the plan.
Also for the benefit of the audience, just like CalPERS, CalSTRS, and a typical retirement plan, there's a group of people who have oversight of the program. I mean, there's an administrator, there's an executive director, there's people that are looking over the plan to make sure that it remains competitive and up to date
That's correct. So we have a board, it's a 9-member board. The composition is selected by law, and so a governor has a representative, the legislature has representatives, people from various sectors of the business community. So we wanted to get that expertise from throughout California to serve on the board. One of the important things that we understand is that this program has to be sustainable. One of the things that we fulfilled is we wanted to make sure that this program was not operated with a single taxpayer penny. And government has to understand that what we see today is going to be very different tomorrow. The economy is changing dramatically. The investment field is changing dramatically. We're going to make sure that this board and subsequent boards understands the indexing, the various programs that we're offering, so that we offer the participants the best possible options going forward.
Mr. Treasurer, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck to you, CalSavers, and the people of California.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you, sir.
Be well.
The California Treasurer brought up points that really hit home for me. We need to get all Americans the opportunity to save. I wanted to learn more about CalSavers as a possible solution for Californians and talk to Executive Director Katie Selinsky to fill in how the program would work.
We're here with Katie Selinsky, and she is the Executive Director of the brand new CalSavers program. Katie, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Let's start with a description about the CalSavers program. What is it?
CalSavers is a simple, portable retirement savings program for people in the private sector who don't have access to a workplace-based retirement savings program. So we have a situation in California where nearly half of working Californians are on a trajectory to retire into economic hardship. One of the drivers of that is that 7.5 million Californians who work don't have access to a way to save for retirement at work. And the research shows that people are 15 times more likely to be on a path to retirement security if they have just a simple, easy, set it and forget it way to save for retirement through their paycheck without ever seeing it. So we're moving very fast right now. The board just about a month ago approved the contracts with our program administrator and investment manager. So the pilot will be open for employer registration and employee enrollment. As you know, Jeff, we have a 3-year kind of phased rollout schedule where employers of various sizes have different deadlines for compliance. Yeah. So the first one for the largest employers, 100 or more, will be approaching that deadline a year from now. So my expectation is that we'll be well on our way to ensuring that all those employers, are aware of the program, know what's required of them, and are ready to really facilitate the program for CalSavers, and that we'll have millions of people in the program this time of year.
But the first one to me is the importance of education and communication. No retirement plan is successful without the engagement of the employees and communicating. And if you build it, they will come, but you got to kind of lead them to where it is so that they can take full benefit of the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Marketing and outreach and education are going to be absolutely essential to our success. We will certainly focus on more traditional modes of communication like paid advertising and earned media, things like that. We are pushing forward on multiple fronts, but then we're insisting on a mobile app. We felt like it was really important to have an actual app, not just a website.
What has been the reception from both employers and employees? Very
positive reception from both employers and employees. What we hear is that employers really want to offer a retirement savings program for their employees, but they give us 3 reasons for not doing it currently: fees, fiduciary liability, and administrative burden. And so CalSavers addresses all 3 of those things. We have no fees, the administrative work is very, very light, and they have no fiduciary responsibilities. Both employers and employees throughout the state of California have told us that they're so excited, they're so eager to get going on participating in CalSavers and get onto a path to retirement security. So we are so proud to be launching this groundbreaking program. We're going to make history with this program and really serve the needs of all those millions of Californians who are currently on a trajectory to retire into economic hardship. So I would encourage all Californians to join with us, support the program, get engaged, and help make this a success. All those people who currently lack access to a retirement savings plan will be able to participate in CalSavers and save for their retirement and invest in their futures.
While I would have loved to visit more North California communities, I only had time for one more stop, to LinkedIn's San Francisco headquarters, where I did a quick
intro with senior finance editor Devin Banerjee for my podcast, The Weekly Pulse. And then it was off to Philadelphia to attend the National Association of Government Defined Contribution Administrators annual conference and meet with other industry retirement leaders. Before the conference kicked off, I had the opportunity to visit a true cultural gem in South Philadelphia's Passy Young Square and meet with the Victor Cafe's general manager Rick and their exceptionally and operatically talented house manager, Robin. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with the history of the cafe, if you wouldn't mind just kind of talking to the
Not at all.
audience about that.
It has very humble beginnings, but with good intentions. When my grandfather arrived in the United States in 1908, he had a tremendous love for opera, and he wanted very much to be involved with the new technology, and because of his love of opera and the repertoire, he wanted to sell the classical records, and that's what he did. After several years of working and saving his pennies, he managed to open up a Victor record shop.
How did he go from the record shop to this wonderful, beautiful cafe that's been featured in many featured films that we won't necessarily name on camera?
Well, the Depression comes along and people didn't necessarily have an extra nickel or a dime to buy a record, but Grandpop would allow them to still come into the store and listen to the new releases. If Grandmom had soup or sandwiches made, maybe they could have a little bit of that. The idea struck him that he could purchase a beer and wine license and during dinner continue to play the recordings that he loved so much. Come 1979, we hired a waiter who coincidentally was an opera student, and every once in a while he would sing. A year later, we hired another waiter, again coincidentally an opera student, and he would sing every once in a while for the customers. And it evolved to the entire floor staff being operatically trained and singers.
Your staff is, mostly semi-professional or people studying to be professional?
We have the whole gamut. Some have recently graduated their vocal arts programs and they're going to work and make a living and wait for their opportunities. Others are here involved with their agents and getting jobs and hoping that their next gig propels them to stardom. And
this show's about retirement. You've lived here the majority of your life,
right.
All of your life.
Yeah.
How have things evolved for you in terms of managing the restaurant and living in Philadelphia?
We've seen everything here at the restaurant. I mean, when I was a child, I remember weeks where perhaps we served 30 customers. And then, of course, there's weeks where we're doing 1,000 customers. So, I've seen the ebb and tide of this business change with the economy of the country and things like that. And we just try to stay as focused as we can on offering the best possible entertainment and food service that we can.
Rick and his family not only want to create a great ambiance and environment for their customers, but they want to create a sense of community and help their employees. Not just for retirement, but also in encouraging them to obtain their dreams. You're professionally trained. You've gone to school for singing opera and performing. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Sure. So I grew up with music in my family. I didn't ever see myself being a singer because I'm pretty much reserved, a very reserved person. So it wasn't until I was about 18 or 19, having sung in choirs, that I found that I could sing. And so I decided to pursue it by going to get my bachelor's degree here in Philadelphia, and then auditioned and was hired and just kept going.
We were talking with Rick. He mentioned how supportive the cafe is for all of you all as performers as well as employees. Can you share a little bit about that and how it's been for you?
As Rick likes to call it, it's like a revolving door here, and there's a great deal of flexibility, which is really hard to find as a performer, to have a job that, like, hey, I'm not going to be available for a month because I'm traveling or touring for a production, and then still have your job when you come back. And if there's ever like a last minute thing or audition or something that comes up, the staff will pull together so that way that person can go do the thing that they need to do. Not only like as employers are they supported when we're here, but also they will come outside of the cafe to support us as musicians and as artists.
So Robin, one of the parts of our show is we're talking about the roads to retirement, and as folks who are pursuing your professional degrees in opera, you're working here at the cafe, have you thought about savings and putting money away towards the future?
We pull tips, which is entirely just from service.
Yep.
The singing here is entirely voluntary, entirely based on a tradition. We make what servers make. And then outside of here, depending on the contract or when we're gonna get paid, like, because you might do a show for a month and you won't have that paycheck until after.
Got it.
After the curtain. So it's really important to go in already having had stuff to live off of. This job absolutely helps with that, because I know a lot of singers out there, you get yourself into real trouble because you're depending on that next paycheck, which I guess is some sort of motivation. But you also have to pay for voice lessons, you have to pay for coachings, you have to pay for accompanists, you have to pay for travel. It's not counting your car, your apartment, or anything else that a normal person, not normal person, but a non-singer,
right,
non-performing professional would have.
As Americans, we put so much of our energy into our families, friends, and pursuing our passions, often living for the moment to the detriment of our futures. What's clear to me is that we're all on our own path, but it's so important to balance today with being mindful about tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed these conversations. I'm Jeff Snyder, and I look forward to meeting you on the roads to retirement.